This week in Pure Reinvention.
And when you actually hone in on whatever your why is, then building your business is that much easier because all of your decisions are made.
Episode 142, Melissa Butler, founder and CEO of The Lip Bar.
Engage, disrupt, adapt, repeat. You're listening to Pure Reinvention, the podcast for curious people.
Anita, Melissa did a really interesting job of talking about two main things I want to get your thoughts on real quick. One, the importance of a leader thinking of themselves as an entrepreneur.
Yes, she talked a lot about her desire of wanting to inspire other individuals, and that is essential to the entrepreneurial spirit, is their desire to change others and to change the culture that surrounds certain aspects. And she does that with her marketing scheme and her vision for the Lip Bar.
For you personally, as a business leader and a mother, what does that mean to you?
Encouraging others to continue to be strong, and when they look in the mirror, that their beauty is enough. And Melissa focuses a lot on that when she decided to launch the Lip Bar, her focus was simplifying what beauty is for each individual and making sure they focus on their characteristics and they are enough as an individual.
Writing a new story.
Absolutely.
Melissa as a disruptor in that she owns her desire.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard that phrase, but I'm very much intrigued by it. What does that mean?
So she talks a lot about her desire to highlight ethnic races that she found that they weren't really seen the most in the beauty industry, in the beauty market. So she talked about the one individual she took with the darkest color skin she could find and the brightest color lip shades to use as her marketing scheme. And she really simplified what her marketing target is. Who is her target customer? And it is those individuals. And she made sure to breathe that into everything that she was doing.
Amazing. Let's listen.
Starters is for anyone, even an individual who is going through a personal reinvention.
Whether it's on a personal level or your career, everybody needs a reinvention.
I definitely would recommend Starters. I think it's a really good program. Mike Bills and his team are fantastic. They really get you thinking in ways that you didn't think before.
Pure Reinvention is happy to announce our second Starters Consort, October 4th and 5th and October 24th and 25th. Go to purereinvention.com/starters and start your reinvention journey today. Melissa, of the 5 steps in the Pure Reinvention process, which step do you most closely align yourself with?
I'm a disruptor. That was easy breezy.
Yay for the disruptors.
So I'm an Aries. So Aries are fire starters in their very nature. It's like we're the people who are very impatient, which actually I think works to my benefit. So I'm that person who is going to find a problem and not just kind of complain about it. I'm going to find a solution for it. And so what I do with the Lip Bar is my entire goal for existing is challenging that beauty standard. It's making beauty anew. It's making people think of beauty in a very different way than they would traditionally think of it. So when you asked that question, I was just like, oh, disruptor, easy. Yeah.
So what's your superpower?
My superpower is probably my ability to start. So it's really interesting because as an entrepreneur, you doubt yourself on so many things. You're doubting yourself at every moment. And I mean, the reality is we don't have it all figured out. Like, I didn't start the business because I knew that I would be amazing at business, but I started the business because I thought it was worth it. And I figured I could take a chance on myself. And so a lot of times as an entrepreneur, or even when you just have that idea, like that notion of starting is the scariest part. Whereas for me, that's the most exciting part. Like, I want to start 1 million businesses. And so I find myself being stretched too thin, actually, where it's like, okay, well, you can't do that. You kind of need to dial it back a little bit. Like, maybe you shouldn't start so many things, or maybe you shouldn't look to execute so many things, because that's definitely my thing. I want to see something. I want to run after it.
And describe for us, Melissa, a time most recently when you found yourself in an uncomfortable situation.
Well, I'm uncomfortable all the time, and I'm not shy. I'm definitely an extrovert, but I've never wanted to be at the forefront of the business because I didn't want people to fall in love with me. I wanted people to fall in love with themselves. Yeah. And so that was something that I always shied away from. And now I'm just getting to the point where it's like, okay, well, you know, you're going to have to like get outside of your box a little bit if you want your business to grow, because the reality is you're not just selling products.
You're selling yourself.
You're selling yourself. You're selling a story. And if I'm not giving them that, then, essentially I'm not really giving my business the adequate tools.
You had mentioned that while you are always in product development, because you're always kind of looking for the next product, you mentioned that it's not really about the product.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious to understand what that means.
Consumer products, no matter if it's a cell phone, a lipstick, food, whatever it is, you have to have something that people are able to believe in. And so beauty in particular is very saturated. And I always say this, you can buy lipsticks anywhere from the dollar store to the department store. They can range from $1 to $45. So what's the difference that your product is going to make to actually compel a customer to spend their disposable income with you? And so oftentimes that's not about necessarily the product performance, because again, you can probably get a lipstick that's $7 to perform pretty closely to a lipstick that's $45, but it's like that belief system. So what do people believe about this product?
What else about the product is what I want to align with?
Yeah. And so it becomes a matter of, what is the story that you're telling? What emotion are you invoking within that customer to make them say, I buy this because I am loyal to this brand? Because you think of all of the social enterprises like Warby Parker, and it's like people buy that and they're drawn to those glasses because they believe in their message. They believe like, oh, this is awesome, they're donating glasses. Or Tom's, for instance. This is awesome because every shoe that I buy is someone else is going to get a shoe.
Okay, so what is your compelling, unique story so that it's not just
lipstick? Again, yeah, exactly. So the product is very much so secondary. Everything that we do at the Lip Bar is to make women feel like they are enough. So there's this thing within the world, and it's not within a particular community. It's not subjective to a certain income. Every woman is basically told what they are needed to look like in order to be beautiful. So we are automatically born with this subset of characteristics that basically define us. And the world is saying, like, in order to be attractive, you need to look in this very specific way. And so the Lip Bar exists, and our entire story is about challenging that beauty standard so that we're actually producing products that say, hey, beauty isn't linear. We're producing imagery that says, hey, beauty isn't linear. And we're also saying, hey, you should never have to compromise your health for beauty. So all of our products have like shea butter, avocado oil, coconut oil, vitamin E. Everything is vegan and cruelty free, because at the end of the day, beauty shouldn't compromise your health, but also access to these responsibly made cosmetics should be affordable. The reality is $20 is a lot of money for lipstick. You can do a lot with $20, and that's how much our price point used to be. And so because my entire reason for existing as a brand is to challenge that beauty standard, I'm always thinking of ways of how to challenge that beauty standard. For instance, I'm like, okay, well, when you think of beauty, you never think of a more mature woman. Like there's this idea that women age out. So when you think of models, it's like always the young girls who are 23 and younger. So it's like we produce imagery that says like, oh wait, no, you're beautiful at any age. Or for instance, you never really see really dark-skinned Black women in ads. So we took like 2 whole years to really produce this very viral imagery. And I say viral because it went everywhere, of this really dark woman. Her name is Destiny. And she was so amazing and captivating. And she has super dark skin. And we put the boldest lip colors we could find on her just to make people think of beauty differently. Because a lot of women, her complexion felt like, I can't wear that color. I grew up thinking that, no, that color was only for people who didn't look like me, sort of thing. So it's reversing that conditioning. Same thing with, plus-sized women. You don't really see them in beauty campaigns. Why? Is it because they're not beautiful? No, it's just because society says that beauty looks like a very specific thing. My story and my reason for existing is to challenge that beauty standard, to make beauty more accessible and more inclusive to women and men, no matter what you look like. Because the reality is beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So everyone says that, and it's like this really cool cliche that people like to say, but no one really believes it. We say it, and then we open magazines that say like, this is how to be more beautiful. And it's like, oh, well, you need to do this in order to be accepted. And it's like, why? Why can't we accept ourselves? So we're really trying to get people to accept what they look like.
As a leader, it would be so much easier for you just to make good lipstick and market lipstick.
Yeah, so much easier.
But you, in your disruptive thought process, are challenging a whole new standard of thought.
Yeah.
Your entire being, as I listen to you, is about expanding people's awareness of something that's very important to you.
Yeah.
And that's that's a constant journey. You're taking the products along with you, but it's like secondary to the real purpose of your work. So how important is the higher understanding to a leader? Not the products they're selling, but the higher understanding. How important is that?
My favorite business quote is people don't buy what you sell, they buy what you believe. And so you have to exude that as a leader, and that has to be very apparent in all of your branding and all of your communication with your customer in order for that message to actually resonate. So as a leader, your product is secondary, because once you figure out your why, the reason, your story, you can then produce products that support your exact belief system. So you think about why you're doing what you're doing and why it matters and why it's so compelling and why it keeps you up at night. And when you actually hone in on whatever your why is, then building your business is that much easier, because all of your decisions are made. Because you're constantly questioning yourself. Am I challenging the beauty standard? Or am I offering these responsibly made products? Or are these products affordable? And am I catering to this undeserved audience who oftentimes doesn't feel like they're adequate? They don't feel like they're beautiful because they don't have that representation. Next weekend, actually, we're going to Toronto for a really popular trade show called IMATS. And we do business with a lot of Indian women there. And you never really see Indian women in advertisements. And I love Indian culture. I went to India 2 years ago. You guys can't see me, but I have a really big nose ring. It's huge. It takes up like half of my right nostril. But I went there and I was so inspired by the culture and their beauty and their food and just like their vibrancy. And it's like you go to a place like Toronto and it's like so many Indian women. They're avid makeup wearers, but they don't necessarily have that representation. And so then they come to my booth because they see women of color and they're like, oh, great. I know that you have shades for me. And so again, that's showing that the product is secondary, because we just made that customer feel something. We made her feel welcome. We made her feel like her beauty is enough. And so from the top down, it's really truly believing that there's beauty in everyone, no matter your shape, your size, your hair texture, your race. It doesn't matter. Like if you feel like you're beautiful, then you're beautiful. That's it. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't feel like they're beautiful because of the lack of representation.
So the messaging is way at that high level of you're beautiful.
Yeah.
The specific application is the product. Now, as you begin to roll out, what's next?
So we're on Target.com and we're preparing to launch in 44 Target stores. We'll be in Target at the top of 2018, which is crazy. 44 stores isn't a lot for Target, but it's a whole lot for us.
It is a lot if your production needs to ramp up to a completely new orbit that you haven't had to think about
Exactly.
before.
It's a whole lot for us. We'll have a very small space that we can basically have our branding there, but they're taking on like 29 products. And so how do we tell that story?
When you say 29 products, that means 29 different shades
colors. Of lip color.
Lip color? Okay.
And we'll have a very small marketing piece in the stores. And so like one of my struggles lately has been like, how do I put all of this information in like a 6x12 box? How do I build this inclusive narrative?
How do you tell your story? You're mentioning a box, so that's at the store, right? They buy the box and the story's in there. Or on social media. Or how are you telling your story? And how would you recommend other leaders be aware of all these new channels of communication to tell the story?
Yeah, well, it's super important that you're active and engaging on social media. Social media is the easiest and fastest way to connect with your audience. And more important than connecting with them, you can actually get feedback. So when I first started the business, I thought that my customer was different than who my customer actually is. So I thought that my customer would be women who were fresh out of college up to ages of 45. And so my marketing was very specific to them. But then what I learned was the customers who were actually coming to me, they were a bit different than what I thought. They were younger. They cared about different things. Oftentimes, price point didn't affect them, but I still made it my business to make the price point affordable. But they were very price insensitive. And so I thought that my customer was completely different. But these channels like YouTube and podcasts and social media are really important because number one, they're impactful. You get the information to them fast. You get to learn about your customer. You get to interact with them. You actually get to go on their pages and see what they're interested in. Like, that's so powerful. You can actually build who your customer is. And I think with any business, knowing who your customer is the most important thing. So like, we have a whole profile for who the Lit Bar woman is. Her name is Chloe. She's 26. She lives in Chicago. She works out. She shops at Lululemon. She shops at Zara. She loves Starbucks. Like, we know exactly what she's doing. We know what concert she's going to go to. We know what TV show she's watching. And so when you think about your customer in such a specific way, you're then able to market to them.
Okay, I got to stop you right there. We have been focusing most recently on one of the key steps in pure reinvention, which is simplify. What you're describing is when you can reduce your focus to and I'm not going to say it's simple because you just rattled off a whole number of them. But basically what you did is you took this whole market of half the population in the world, female, and you absolutely condensed it down into a very simple set of understandings about who your customer is likely going to be, or through market research, and you even named her.
Yeah.
Explain how important simplifying that understanding down so that you can really do your magic with your story is.
Yeah, when you have a small business, you don't have a lot of resources. You can't afford to make a lot of mistakes. And I know this because my first 2 years in business, I made a ton of mistakes and I lost a lot of money that I didn't necessarily need to lose because I wasn't as focused. And people need to be hyper focused, and then they'll see their growth from there. And by hyper-focused, I mean that you need to focus on a very specific segment of the market. So while I may say that my customers, millennial women, girls aged 16 to
named Chloe.
32. Yeah. If I say that in very particular and very specific ways, that is my customer, that doesn't mean that a woman who's 55 isn't buying my product, or that a little girl who's 12 isn't buying my lip gloss. It just means that I am marketing to this very specific group. And I think that my marketing can be strong enough that from this group, they'll actually share and spread the message.
Exactly. But it helps you to at least focus your energy on that, and in the marketplace will then spread out.
Absolutely.
And connect.
Absolutely.
Right? But you don't have to worry about that at this phase. You just need to get it into the market in a very specific, simplified way and let the market expand itself.
Yeah.
Or let Target expand it. Or let other word of mouth and social media expand it.
Yeah, but you really want to try to narrow down who your exact customer is, because that customer is going to give you the most insight on your business and how you should be growing it, what products they need, what products they're looking for, what are their pain points in their lives.
Take a step back and think about leaders that you know. Mm-hmm. Are they trying to do simple messaging or complex messaging?
Simple.
Just that fast?
Yep, simple.
So if you're a leader and your message is not simple, simple in understanding, not simple in what it is, but simple in being able to digest.
Yeah.
You have to really ask yourself, do people understand me?
Yeah, you have to dial it down and not dumb it down. You have to be able to put your idea, your story, your mission, whatever it is, into just a few words. What am I doing? It's almost like that tagline. I think we're kind of missing the part that we actually need like this vision statement or this motto. We really need mottos. And when you think of mottos, it's like only a few words that basically exemplify the entire reason that your business is around. And I think that if businesses in general or leaders decided to simplify their message in the form of a motto, that would actually make them able to communicate to their team, their strategies, their products that they're producing in a way more effective way.
For those people that want to get a hold of you, to have a deeper conversation?
Yeah.
How can they connect with you?
Go to my website, which is melissarbutler.com, and just drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anita, the first question I've got to ask, are you going to buy Melissa's products?
Absolutely. I can't wait to look at them and see what she has available.
It's very exciting for an entrepreneur to have their product available in 40 stores and to really, right, this could be the beginning of a whole next story in this particular arena. And we're excited at Pure Reinvention to have been able to showcase Melissa. Anita, for you and I want to spend some time talking about how Melissa has created a new story that she's really, it's more than the product. It's about reshaping the way people think about themselves, right? Which is a whole new story to create. Oh, and then by the way, we have a product. But really it's about changing the story and how important it is to have a new story for people to rally around.
Melissa really focused on, she kept referring to imagery and the image that women have when they look into the mirror to make sure that they're enough as an individual. You know, she talked about her desire to really spark that fire in someone to make sure that their product brings out the best in them and that they are beautiful and they're always beautiful. And that is what her marketing and her culture is all about with the lip bar.
That's, to me, I think this whole new story or next story that will probably resonate with a lot of individuals isn't about let us change you. It's about let us enhance you. And that, to me, is, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, allows Melissa now to move into how many different areas, Anita? Isn't this unlimited?
It is unlimited, and her voice was so spirited listening to her podcast, and it was just intriguing as she continued to go on, and her excitement, you could hear where her passion really lies and what she wanted to do. And, you know, it's not that she wanted to start out being an entrepreneur and running this business. She had a vision and she had a belief system, and that's what she wanted to execute as an entrepreneur.
She also was able to overcome.
Absolutely.
She didn't come from an environment of entrepreneurs. She didn't come from a rich resource of a lot of funding. She had to even change her own story herself. And as a leader, isn't that a really important thing for people to see, that you yourself are transforming yourself first?
Transformation is key in being a strong, successful leader because it's a continuum. You are continually transforming and learning from your mistakes. And Melissa focused on how she was able to do that, how she was able to execute her entrepreneurial spirit. And at the same time, when she referenced how she's going to the Target stores, which I am so excited for her, she's nervous and anxiety. And she referenced how some people might not think that's that much work, but it is an immense amount of work for her and her team to make sure that launches successfully because that's essential for their long-term success.
One of her points was that she owns her own desire. And therefore, when she does this next step, right, product into stores and whatever those results are, she will own whatever's next, because that's the role of a leader, right? To own whatever the results of your first initiative as you go to the second phase and third phase and so on. So how does a leader, in this case Melissa, how do people listening to this podcast begin to understand how they can own their desire?
She understands what essentially she wants long term, how she needs to get there and what she needs to do. When you own your own desire, you take hold of what your vision is and where you want to go in the next 2 days, 2 years, and you really itemize it. And then you take that and you execute it downstream, and you make sure to delegate it to your team while you live and breathe that vision and that culture every single day.
While you live and breathe yourself. What else did you have for takeaways?
She focused a lot on simplifying her cultural marketing scheme and how she really took the untapped marketing resource of the ethnic culture that she found there was actually no marketing for those individuals, and she broadcasted it everywhere, taking the darkest lipstick, the darkest woman, and making them look, obviously they're already beautiful. She talked about this woman just being gorgeous and taking her brand and putting it, and that is her marketing because that's what she believes in, is they were an untapped resource and they were a culture, when your skin's a little bit darker, that maybe the lipstick wasn't perfect for you, and that is what her brand is all about with the lip bar. It's really enhancing and that they are enough and they are just as beautiful as everyone else.
Now, you talked about Melissa telling her story, but by telling her story, we're not seeing Melissa on traditional commercials on television. We're seeing this message on YouTube. We're seeing this message on social media. Talk for a minute about how important a leader needs to understand where people are so that they can receive your message.
And we talked about this on another avenue, but what her marketing target is. So she talked about Chloe, this individual in Chicago that shopped at certain brand stores. When you're marketing a certain individual, you really need to understand where they're getting their social media from. And it's just that, it's social media. They're not watching the news on the TV. They're not picking up a hard copy of a magazine. They are on Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. There are all these resources that are at their fingertips. And Melissa really understood that that's where her client base is going to be and where she could reach them the most, is at their fingertips from their smartphones.
Anita, thank you.
Thank you.
If you're ready for a change, make it a change that lasts. Make it Pure Reinvention.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Pure Reinvention. Keep the conversation going and get alerts when new podcasts are up by following us on Twitter at Pure Reinvention or sign up for our mailing list at purereinvention.com.